Well, welcome to another episode of The Minority Voice. I'm your host, Jeff Vega, and I brought Patrice back because I tell you, she is loaded with information, and she actually makes me look good. So, because she's giving out information. How you doing this evening?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Awesome. So, the last time we were here, we talked about a little bit about the Durham report, but since then too, the Arizona's audit go back. So I'd like to talk about that. So we can either do that one first and then the Durham. You can finish up on that, or you can do Durham. Which one do you want to go with first?
Well, I'm excited about Maricopa, so let's do that.
Let's do Maricopa. Okay. So for those who don't know what Maricopa was all about, just kind of give them a real overview on what it was, what they actually did in Arizona.
Well, in Arizona, it was an ongoing battle. But the Senate, headed by Karen Fann, she's president of the Senate, Republican there, insisted and persisted and got a forensic audit. And by forensic, I mean they used microscopes and looked at the paper. They ran UV lighting on it. They did computer analysis. They did a true forensic analysis on that election.
Now, was that like what they did in Antrim County in Michigan?
Antrim County, they went in and they looked at the machines and they detected a lot, but it wasn't as detailed a forensic audit.
So they didn't actually do the ballots, but they did the machines, right?
Well, some, yeah, not like this. I mean, here they were actually, digging into, the fibers, and they really did a phenomenal job on all points. It would be the audit that they did in Maricopa County would hold up in court. It has such rigor that it would be like an autopsy.
There were a lot of court challenges too all along the way, wasn't there?
Oh yeah, I think Maricopa County did not participate. They resisted all the way through until a judge, basically the last final judge, said, no, you have to hand over those machines. Okay, but they did it just before.
So now, was Maricopa County, is that a Democrat run or is that a Republican run county?
Well,
good question.
That is a good question.
I'll have to bring you back to the answer.
I don't know the answer to that, but they're not cooperative. I mean, they under penalty of going to jail, they finally cooperated.
And the only reason why I asked that too, because I know here in Michigan, there are a lot of clerks, Republican clerks, that are resisting doing any kind of forensic audit on their machines.
Well, there's a reason for that. Dominion threatens them and basically will sue them for everything and beyond. Okay. So they're under threat. A lot of them have offered to participate and cooperate, but as soon as they mention it to their superiors or somebody, then they contact Dominion, and Dominion is right in there saying, you do this and we will sue you for $1 billion. Like they're doing with Sidney Powell. I think they're suing her for something like $1 billion with a B.
Yeah, well, they just add zeros. And they could probably get the billing hours in too on that. So, okay, so let's get back to Maricopa.
Okay.
So they did it, it's complete, right?
No, it's not complete.
It's not complete.
It's not complete, no. They did not get the machines in time to do a real deep dive into the machines.
Okay.
So there's more work to do on the routers and different parts of the actual machines. But they did do a lot. For example, they were able to analyze some of the data and see that just before it was turned over, just before the audit occurred, somebody went in there and erased things. And unfortunately for forensics computer scientists, it goes into, they can overwrite, and when it's overwritten, it's gone. But there are also parts of a hard drive that aren't typically used, and that's where a lot of data is stored.
Okay. And one thing, when you do a forensic audit, that stuff shows up.
Yes.
That shows up what you've done. If you've done anything nefarious, it shows up, and evidently they did. And because I think about some of the things that happened in Antrim County that they talked about. Like one of the things that supposedly the machines didn't have modems on it, but Dominion had put modems in a chip. So you don't see an external modem, but in that chip. there's a modem. So
They proved without any question
Okay.
that there is connection to the internet. When you turn those machines on, it's like when you turn on your computer, it automatically looks for the internet connection.
Sure.
It'll tell you if it's got Wi-Fi. That's what they do.
Right.
They do
Okay.
that. And they also found on some of the machines 2 hard drives. And there's no way in the world that would have been approved to have dual drives. So somebody put in dual drives. And they found data on some of the drives that reflected information from other parts of the country. So what was that doing there?
Okay.
Very bizarre.
So now, though, and I would imagine the media and everybody was focusing on the actual ballot count and the results. Was that pretty accurate?
Well, what they did at Maricopa when they did the audit, for example, I can't pronounce his name, Dr. Shiva.
Okay.
It's a long name afterwards, but he basically looked at the actual ballots and saw that, for example, some of the approved stamps were printed. The actual ballot had that pre-printed on there because there was another stamp over it from the actual ballot.
Okay.
So that's a very bizarre occurrence. He was very gracious in that he didn't say, this is a fraudulent ballot, but it was pre-printed with an error because it didn't show it going over top of the lines. It was under the lines that were printed on there.
Okay.
So,
Right.
I mean, very bizarre things happened.
What
Yeah.
else did they? What else was unusual?
They found duplicate ballots, like 17,000 of them. They also found, and they also found
No,
Go ahead.
what was the margin of victory for
Biden?
Biden?
I think it's only 10,000 votes or
10 or
something.
12,000.
Yeah, 10 or
okay.
12,000.
So I only mentioned that because you said 17. So I know that exceeded the victory margin. So you got 17,000 there.
Yes,
Okay.
and they also found a high percentage of ballots that had no signatures on them. So they rated them as like a clear signature, a medium signature, a fuzzy signature, and like no signature. And several were approved and counted with no signatures. Now the auditors didn't change that. They just reported, okay, you've got, 3,000 ballots that had no signatures. And at the same time, they reduced the standards on signature verification. This Dr. Shiva was talking about the 27 points on a typical signature in a banking system that they would use to identify a signature and verify it. And it may have started off that way, but they kept reducing it and reducing it and reducing it until finally, when there was no signature, it was even approved.
Did they say how many of those were?
Yeah, they did. I don't remember the numbers, but there were a lot. There were quite a few, yeah.
All right. So what else did they show?
Well, there was intentional overwriting of the security logs, and there was that they're supposed to keep the records for 22 months. But just before they turned over the computers, the tabulators, there was intentional overwriting. So you have to wonder why that happened. Somebody went in, and actually during the testimony, they mentioned how, well, actually they did have footage, video footage, because they're security cameras, so they know who the people were that did it.
Okay.
But one of the problems that they have in general with the use of the machines there is that everybody over the, I don't know how many years, they all had the same passwords as when the machines were first issued. Okay. There was one password that everybody had that nobody changed. So in any kind of secure system, you would have your password, I would have my password,
So
Dave would have
who
his
access.
password. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's
Okay.
and the chain of custody, a lot of the ballots, they didn't match. They received more ballots than they sent out. In some counties, in some places, they had more people vote, or they had more ballots that were voted than people
Registered.
that showed up to vote. It wasn't just registered voters. It was, okay, 200 people said they voted, but we've got 300 ballots. I guess we better count them.
Okay. You have to shake your head. So what else did they find?
Well, what they did is they found lots of things that needed more investigation, and bordered on criminality. So Karen Fann, the president of the Senate, wrote a letter to the Attorney General there and asked that this be investigated for prosecution and for investigating into criminal charges. So this is not over by any long shot. Patrick Colbeck has mentioned that the media jumped on this ahead of time, trying to say, well, they found in favor of Biden. But that's really not what happened. Their job wasn't to change the numbers. They reported, okay, you've got, I don't know, 3,000 ballots that didn't have any signatures. So when you look at it, a real audit would take that out. Now, Patrick Colbeck is saying this election was so messed up. There was no chain of custody. There were so many errors. There's no way of verifying it. He's thinking it should be decertified and a whole new election should be held.
And I think that was part of, I will say, as a conspiracy theorist, that was part of the strategy to show chaos. If you can show chaos, then you can get away with a lot of things. And so basically, the report, how would you sum it up?
I would sum it up that the report shows that the results are not, you can't trust the results because there were just too many breaches of security and safety and protocol and law, and it was a mess.
And there's more to come then.
There's more to come, and I don't think you can say Maricopa necessarily is any different than any other place. So we don't know.
Right. So,
but
they're not done.
They're not done. No.
They're not done.
Texas
That's good to know.
Texas is doing a forensic audit.
And
Georgia.
I think that has sparked interest in other states with their certain counties that have done it. So, and that's a good thing because, I'm not confident that anything is going to come out of it as far as changing the outcome. I think we're too far gone with that. But if it can move towards cleaning it up in the future, that's
right.
That's
right.
That's what's important. So let's talk a little bit about
just to add to that,
okay.
until voters feel secure that their ballot is counting and it's being treated fairly, there's always going to be a shadow of doubt hanging over the elections, and that needs to be fixed.
Yeah. And one thing we can do, both sides, is get engaged in the election process.
That's right.
Not just being a poll watcher, but being a poll counter, if you will.
Yep.
Get in there and make that happen, and then your voice and your eyes will be heard.
Right.
Right. So, getting back to the Durham report, were there anything else that you wanted to share that we didn't cover last time?
Let me get that out here.
Okay.
We didn't really talk about.
Did you get a chance to read the 27 pages?
Yeah, and several
really?
analysis of it. It's quite interesting.
Okay.
But my goodness, it's never going to be something that you can just in 1 second do a great summary,
Right.
except that the Sussman was part of the Perkins Co.
Yep.
And his partner Elias was also. They were both. One was focused on the Clinton campaign, and the other was dedicated to the Democrat National Committee. Okay. And together they worked together in hatching this plan.
And that's why he resigned.
Yeah,
Elias.
probably.
Yeah. So he's hiding. So
he's hiding, or he's talking.
Yes.
Or he's talking and hiding.
Yeah, exactly. So, what else we didn't cover last time?
Well, the FBI went into a lot of detail of when they interviewed him, because they had, as we talked about, they had all the records of Perkins Co. They know where the payments were, and they knew
follow the money.
And he filed reports. This is what I did, and this is who I told. And then he sat and interviewed with the FBI and said he wasn't working for the Clinton campaign, that he was an independent person. He just happened to have these white papers and all these documents that they had created, and it was all manufactured. There wasn't a shred of truth to it. It was planned to smear Trump, and they even had it timed. They wanted to do it in time to throw the election.
Sure. Well, okay. Well, and that too, there's more to come with that.
Yes, yeah, I
Awesome.
think here you have the media saying, well, he didn't, one indictment, that's nothing, but he had to indict some Sussman before the statute of limitations kicked in. And so I think the report is so thorough and it implicates so many people that it's going to be very interesting. These tech companies that participated, the tech companies, the underlings were ordered to go combing through and find something on Trump,
I think
communicating with Russia.
When those individuals get put under oath, and you'll have those will talk.
Yes.
Those will talk.
Yes, and
Those
one
will
of them
talk.
said, you know, this sounds to me like we're just trying to get Trump. Is that fair? You know, basically.
Okay.
So, I mean, they were doing what they were told, but really they traced it, as you mentioned last time, they traced it to a server that was just like a spam server. It was spoofing. It was working, basically sending out advertisements to all these. It had no connection to the Trump campaign, and they also then started sending more to that, so that they could implicate Trump.
Yes. Yeah,
So they revved it up.
Yeah.
It was all. I mean, it's the stuff you couldn't make up.
It's fine web that they weave. Right? Or we weave whatever. But hey, it was good. I'm glad you came back. And I tell you what, let's have you back to discuss the what's going on in Lansing.
Sounds
Okay?
great.
Awesome.
Sounds great.
Well, until next time, Joshua 24:15.